Thank you, Lindsay. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Intro to Crochet Lace for the Lace Petal Shawl here today on this Monday afternoon. My name's Claire. I'll be your moderator here in the Zoom chat. That's Darren, your teacher there on screen. If you have any questions, just pop them in the chat and either I can answer them directly or I'll forward them to Darren. I've just put the link for the pattern in the class and I'll put the PDF in there as well. And I'll put that in there a couple more times over the course of class. You can get it as needed. Like Lindsay said, this is being recorded, so you'll be able to watch it back tomorrow as many times as you need. And I think with all that, we're ready to get started.
Okay, welcome to class, everyone. So today we are going to learn all the skills that you need to learn to make this nice little shawl, this crochet lace shawl. We're going to review some basic stitches, and then I'm going to review the pattern. So if we want to go ahead and change the view to the view of my hands, we can go ahead and get started. See one. Okay. So the pattern we're looking at today is called it's the Lace Petal Shawl. And this is a free pattern that's available on lionbrand.com. So if you go to lionbrand.com and you can either type in Lace Petal Shawl or put in this pattern number, you can always print a free copy of the pattern at any time. So it's a free pattern that's available. This pattern is using cotton bamboo yarn, which is a very nice bamboo yarn. But another one that I'd like to recommend you might want to try is the Truboo. So this is the Lion Brand Truboo, and this yarn is available on lionbrand.com and also on michaels.com. So the Truboo, and it comes, I have a couple of choices of colors here, but it comes in a really wide variety of colors. So it has neutrals, so you're bound to find a color that you really love. So yeah, so Truboo is another great choice for this yarn. And today in class, however, I'm going to be using this yarn for demonstrating my techniques. So this is called Hometown Bonus Bundle. And this one is available on lionbrand.com or michaels.com if you want to use this one for whatever you want to use. But I like to use this one for practicing because it is easy for students to see what I'm doing on the video. It's a nice thick yarn, so it's good for demonstrating. So when you make the shawl, you probably wouldn't use this yarn, although you could and make a very large, it'd just be a much larger version of it. So this is Hometown Bonus Bundle, and it's great for a lot of projects, and I love using this yarn for teaching, so when I'm practicing. So that's why I'm using a different yarn than what the pattern calls for. Okay. And so today I'm using this. This is a crochet hook. It's by lionbrand.com. And I think it's a 9mm and N13, which is appropriate for this nice thick yarn that I'm using for demonstrating. So that's what I'm going to be using today. Okay. So I do want to go over some basic techniques. This shawl, this lace shawl, only uses, you need to know how to chain, you need to know how to single crochet and double crochet, and that's pretty much it. So that's the amazing part. Just by knowing those few skills, you can really make some amazing projects. So if you look at the back where it gives a list of the abbreviations, that's really all you're calling for. It's double crochet, and single crochet and just a few other things. And then we're going to review the pattern. So I'm going to demonstrate how to do the chain first. And if you have any questions or need me to do anything over again, just let me know. Okay. So the first thing you want to do is make a slip knot. And you probably already know how to do a slip knot. I'll demonstrate the way I do it. So here's my tail. You want to leave a tail that's about 4 or 6 inches long, maybe 8 inches, not too long. And you make a loop like this. The tail should be laying on top of the working yarn. So this method is called short over long. So the short tail is laying on top of the working yarn, which is much longer. You put your hand inside of that loop like this, and then you sneak under that loop, grab hold of the tail, and then holding the tail and the working yarn together, you bring a loop back through. And the reason I like doing it this way is because the tail is what ends up controlling the size of your slip knot. And it's not real important with this project, but with other crochet projects, it's very important that the tail is what controls the size of the slip knot. So it's nice to get in the habit of doing it that way, so you'll always have it set like that. So just lay out a loop, put the tail, the short tail over the long, so short over long, put your hand inside of that little loop, holding on to the tail. You want to grab a loop, and then you're going to hold the tail and the working yarn together and then cinch it up. And then you know you did it right if the tail is what controls the size of that loop, right? And then you can just pop your crochet hook right on there. Now, if you don't tie your slip knot like this, then it's fine. There are so many ways of tying a slip knot, but this is just one way that I like to do it. So however you do it, I'm sure is fine. Okay. And then to do the chain, you kind of hold on right under where your slip knot is to give it some tension. And then you yarn over and kind of turn your hook down to make, and that's simply how you make a chain. So you probably all already know how to make a chain. Very, very easy. Okay. So for this pattern, and I'm not going to be able to follow the whole pattern in class, although we will review it. It wants us to chain 87. So you would just continue chaining until you have 87 chains. And always remember, the loop that's on your hook does not count. So when you're counting your chains, you can start at the hook or you can start at the other end, but the loop that's on your hook does not count. So you would start here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you just count them like that. 6, 7, 8. So that's how you count. You can start it from this direction too, but I find it easier to start it from the hook, but it doesn't really matter. But that's how you count your chain. So make sure you have 87 once you get going. Okay. Any questions about slip knot, making a chain, or counting your chain? How are we doing so far? All right.
We're doing good. No questions so far.
Okay, great. Now I do want to demonstrate, got a little swatch here. I'm going to demonstrate single crochet. Do some single crochets here. So I'll show you how to end. So with a single crochet, you just go through here and you're going to pick up 2 strands of yarn, yarn over, bring it through, yarn over, bring through both. Single crochet. And you can kind of feel for it or you can kind of look for it. But you want to make sure you're picking up both strands of yarn at the top. Yarn over, bring it through both. Chain 1. Nope, I wanted to yarn over, but you don't yarn over first. So you enter it and then bring through 2 loops. Enter your stitch, yarn over, bring up 2 loops, yarn over, bring it through both. All right, so you probably already know how to single crochet. Now for a double crochet, you yarn over to start with, enter the stitch, yarn over again, bring up a loop, yarn over, bring through 2, yarn over, bring through 2. Okay. So yarn over, bring through 2, and then that's the standard double crochet. Any questions about that? We doing all right? So yarn over. Just always make sure you're picking up both strands of yarn. You don't want to sometimes split it or something. That's a different type of stitch. Okay, so that's doing the chain, the single crochet, and the double crochet, which is pretty much what we're going to need to make this. So if everyone feels comfortable about that, maybe we'll start looking at the pattern. Okay.
Oh, we did have a couple questions here, Darren.
Okay, let's ask the question.
We had a request to see the double crochet again.
Okay.
And then just a general question, when turning to a new row, does it matter if you're turning clockwise or counterclockwise?
I always was told you should turn it like you turn the pages of a book. What do you think, Claire? Does it matter a lot or not really?
I don't think it probably matters that much, other than the fact that, you know, depending upon the twist of your yarn, you'll either be going against the twist or with the twist of the yarn.
Yeah.
And so if you're going with the twist of the yarn, you might end up getting, like, you know, a little bit of kinks, but you can always, you know, untwirl that later.
I would say do it always the same way in the same project, though. You probably wouldn't want to alternate.
Yes, just keep it consistent.
I would keep it consistent. Yeah, when I get to the end of the row, we'll see how I do it. I'm not even sure, but I remember being told before to turn your work like you're turning the pages of a book. I don't know if that makes any sense. It really doesn't make any sense to me, but we'll see how it goes. All right, so double crochet, yarn over, so yarn over, enter the stitch, yarn over, bring up a loop. You have 3 loops on the hook, yarn over, bring through 2, yarn over, bring through 2. Okay, so yarn over, enter the stitch, yarn over, bring through a loop. You have 3 loops, yarn over, bring through 2, yarn over, bring through 2. Okay, does that, how's that for double crochet? That make it pretty good?
I think so.
I have a knot in my yarn here. I couldn't get it out. So we're just going to push through that knot. Okay, any other questions before we get moving along?
None so far.
Okay, so here, let's see how I do it. So I'm getting it to the end. It's another swatch. So finish my double crochet. And I'm going to chain 3 from my side. And then when I turn my work, I turn mine this way. So I ended my work this way, and I turn it this way. Does that look counterclockwise or clockwise? I'm not even sure. But it's like you're turning the pages of a book. That's what, see how you kind of turn it this, like if it were a book? Does that make sense? Does that look clockwise or counterclockwise, Claire?
I mean, I would call it right to left.
That's what I was thinking. It doesn't
seem
counterclockwise. It doesn't seem either one, but it kind of like that. So I hope that, I don't think clockwise or counterclockwise is the right way to describe it, is it? So
I don't think so, because you're not really
going
you're
around.
flipping it rather than rotating it, at least
Yeah.
in my mind. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what. All right. So when we're following the directions for the shawl, we're going to start looking at the pattern. And it says we're going to do at first. I'm not going to chain 87 because we only have so much to do in class. So I'm going to demonstrate this, and then you can practice along if you want, or maybe you can just watch, and then when you're ready to start the shawl, you can rewatch the class and kind of go along with it at that point. But we're going to do 3 double crochet in the 4th chain from the hook. We're going to skip 4 chains, and then we're going to do 4 double crochet in the next chain. So there's a lot of directions in this line. And so one thing that I like to do is I will kind of separate out the directions so that I can see kind of where each set of directions starts and stops. So I don't know if that would be helpful for anyone watching, but I kind of like just take a pencil and just kind of put some marks to kind of, so I know where my eye can kind of fall right at the right place. And also it's nice to, you can put some Post-it notes to kind of block out the information you're not looking at. Sometimes when you get a whole list of instructions, it can be kind of confusing until you get the hang of it. And just by blocking out the information you're not looking at, kind of makes things look a lot simpler. And that maybe that's just me, but I kind of like to do it that way. I'm dyslexic, so sometimes looking at a whole list of numbers and abbreviations like this can kind of be intimidating for me. So that already to me, that looks like something that's way more manageable to do. So that's how I like to approach it. Okay. And I worked up this swatch just so it'd be a little bit easier to work into, because sometimes working into a chain when you're demonstrating, it makes it hard for you to see what I'm doing. So I am going to be working into this little swatch, but just know when you do start it, you'll be working right into the chain. And I can demonstrate it both ways if you want, but for demonstrating purposes, sometimes it's easier to see what I'm doing this way than with a flimsy chain. So I'll be happy to do both if you want me to. Okay. So we're going to do 3 double crochet in the 4th chain from the hook. So count it this way. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're going to go into that 4th chain. So 3 double crochet. So yarn over. And so doing them all in the same stitch is actually pretty easy. It might sound complicated at first, but you just do a double crochet, and then in that same one, do another one, and in the same one, do another one. So that's 3 double crochets in the same stitch. Okay. And then we're going to skip 4. And so that's really easy. We're just going to count them. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And so I'm going to go into that one. So skip 4 chains and then do 4 double crochet in the next. So now we're going to do 4 double crochet. So just by knowing how to do these few stitches and then arranging them in the right way and skipping stitches, which create spaces, you can really do a lot of really interesting techniques and designs. And they look a lot more complicated than they are. Okay, so 4 double crochet in the same one. And you can see how without doing anything, just by skipping stitches, we create this kind of negative space here, which adds decorative interest to your lace. So that's pretty cool, really, if you think about it. By doing nothing, you get to add extra. Okay, so we're going to do a chain 3.
Darren,
Yes.
if you were working this into the beginning chain, are you working under both lengths of the V or into just one?
Okay, well, that's a kind of a loaded question because there are lots of different ways you can do it. I suggest doing it the easiest way possible because there's 3 ways of entering into the chain. And let me just get some chains going here to demonstrate. Okay, so 3 double crochet in the 4th chain from the hook. So don't count your loop that's on the hook. So 1, 2, 3, 4. I would recommend probably just going right in there where you probably could go under just 1 strand of yarn. You can go under 2, but I don't think in this situation it's going to make a lot of difference. You can go under 1 or 2. And then if you really want to get fussy about it, you can actually find this bump on the back, or you can go into the bump in the back, which it does make a nice edge. You end up getting kind of like a chain. It looks like a nice chain like that along the edge, so that kind of the end and the beginning will look very similar. But it's not crucial. So pretty much, just don't stress out about it. I would probably just go through there while you're just going under 1. What do you think, Claire? What's the best way?
For something like this or like a scarf where you're going to see the starting end, I like to go under the back bump just so my beginning and end match a little bit better.
It does look very nice. With this big yarn, it's really easy to see that back bump. So you can see it right there and right there. And so it does give it a very nice finish. I will agree with you on that. But if you've not done that before, it can be a little tricky. So you don't want to think you need to do that and then cause that to make it not a fun project, and you don't want to be discouraged right from the very beginning. So go ahead and try to go through the back bump if you would like. But if you're finding it to be hard to get into, I think that's the hardest way. Ultimately it's not that hard, but it is a little fussy. So if you're having a hard time finding it, just go through wherever you can. And I think it'll be all right. Does that answer the question or no? Probably makes it more confusing, right?
I think it answers it basically. Do it whichever way is easiest for you, unless you want to make the edge look a certain way.
Yeah. And that's why it doesn't tell you. It just says chain 87 and then start working into the chain, because it'll just have you do it kind of however you want. And that's fine. All right. Any other questions about the chain or how to work into it? No? Okay. So I'm going to go back to this one because I feel it's a little easier for demonstrating. All right, so what I just finished on this swatch, I just finished here where it says 4 double crochet in the next chain, and then it wants us to chain 3, skip 3 chains, and then do a single crochet in the next chain. Chain 3, skip 3 chains, and then 4 double crochet in the next chain. So let me show you how to do that. So chaining, of course, is very easy. And so at this point in your project, you just chain 3. So 1, 2, 3. And it might at first seem a little odd to be doing a chain in the middle of the project, but it's actually quite easy. So, and it also adds quite a bit of interest to your lace. You're going to skip 3 chains. So in this, we're going to skip 3. So 1, 2, 3. So we're going to skip 3. And then we're going to do a single crochet. And remember, single crochet, you don't yarn over first. So 1, 2, 3, so skip 3. So really you're doing it in the 4th one. So enter the stitch, yarn over, bring up a loop, yarn over, bring through both, and then chain 3. Skip 3, and then do 4 double crochets in the next chain. So we're going to skip 3. 1, 2, 3. So we're going to do it right there. So basically you're doing it in the 4th one. You're doing 4 double crochets. So double, and doing all in the same one. Okay, so 4 double crochets in the same one. And then we're going to skip 4, and we're going to do 4 double crochets in the next chain. And then you're going to repeat that until you get to the very end of the row. And so I do want to point that out. Whenever you see an asterisk, so right here it says there's an asterisk and it starts with our chain 3. And then that usually means you're going to repeat something. So pay special attention to that. And then when we get to the end of this set of instructions here, it says repeat from the asterisk to the end of the row. So you just go back to where that asterisk is and you start with chain 3 and do all of the instructions, and you just keep repeating it. And you do want to make sure that your stitch count is right, because if your stitch count is not right, then things will not line up well. So so skip 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So 1, 2, 3 to skip, and then I'm going to do a double crochet in the last
Darren, your
chain.
hands are off
Oh,
screen.
sorry. So I'm just doing a double crochet in the last one. And that is the end of row 1. Okay. And so you can already see, even with just doing 1 row of this instruction, it's already starting to look pretty interesting. You're getting these like little seashell patterns, and then it goes down and connects. So you're kind of getting these loops. So it's actually already very pretty. So just by doing a few basic stitches, maybe in a different way than you're used to, you can create some very interesting patterns. And that's one thing that's really exciting about working with lace, is it looks really hard and it can look very impressive, but that doesn't actually mean it is so hard. So, don't be intimidated by it. So I'm moving my Post-its down. You can even put a row of Post-its above that to block out the row that you already finished if you're easily distracted the way I am. So there we go. So now we're going to chain 3, and that counts as the first double crochet on this row and all following rows. So turn your work, and then you're going to do 3 double crochets in the first double crochet from the previous row. Skip 6 double crochets, do 4 double crochets in the next double crochet. So that sounds very complicated. So let's just take it one at a time and see how that works out for us. So I'm going to do my chain 3, and okay, and it counts. So this counts as a double crochet. And one thing that's nice to do at this point as well, just to kind of help keep track of where you are. So I did my chain 3, and it's nice to stick a stitch marker right on there to know where your chain 3 was. When you come back across, that actually might be very helpful for you. So that's a good idea. So do your chain 3. It doesn't say to place the stitch marker, but I like to place a stitch marker, and then 3 double crochets in the first double crochet. So that's this one right here. So 3 double crochets. So 1, 2, 3. And now we're going to skip 6. So 1, 2, 3. What is that? What did I do something wrong? Let me double check. I did something wrong there. Okay. So I'm looking at this. Do we have any questions? I feel like let me make sure I did this right.
We did have a question about how to end the first row, which I think may have helped you with this. The pattern ends with the 4 double crochet in the next chain. And I think you had an extra
I did
stitch
one.
or two.
Let me, yeah, I feel like I did something wrong. So this is why, okay, so 4 double crochet in the next, okay, that's right. Thank you, Claire. I'm like, this worked when I was practicing. Okay, so let me go back.
It happens to the best of us.
But that's why, I mean, I'm kind of glad that I did that because it shows it's very important to count because it said to skip 6 double crochets. And when I counted them, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then my next stitch, sorry, so I had 1, 2, 3, 4 here, and my next stitch is a single crochet. So I knew, I thought, uh-oh, I did something wrong. So it's very important to make sure that you're counting your stitches and looking at them correctly, and also that you're following the instructions that are written down there. So let's go back and see what I did. And I am not too proud to admit I made a mistake. Okay, so go here. All right, where was it? Okay. So you're supposed to do 4 double crochet in the next chain and then repeat. And for some reason, when I did that, I only did 1. So thank you, Claire, for paying attention and see what I was doing. So now I'm going to do 4.
We'll say thank you to the student who noticed it.
Thank you, student. See, that's the thing. We all learn. We can all learn from each other. Yeah, I was panicking there for a minute because I was like, gosh, this worked when I practiced. I practiced and made sure I understood everything, and now it's not working. Okay. 2, 3, and then turn. So that's a lesson in reading carefully. Okay, so 3 double crochets in the first one. And that's another good lesson too. Like that's the next thing I was going to do was because I knew my count wasn't right. So just go back and double check the row above that and make sure you didn't read it wrong. Because sometimes when you make a mistake, you feel like you're frozen and you can't like move forward. But don't be afraid to like go back and look and see what you did and then reread the directions, because that usually whenever I do that and my stitch count isn't right, if I just go back and double check, it's not such a bad mistake to fix. Okay. So 3 double crochets in the first double crochet, and then skip 6 double crochets, and then 4 double crochets in the next double crochet. Okay, so we're going to skip 6.
Darren.
What?
Can you just show a little bit more on the swatch where you place those 3 double crochets in the first double crochet? It's the first one right next to the chain, correct?
Yeah. So that's it's right. So if we look at our double crochets, if you can either look at these V's. If you're a knitter, they kind of look like knit stitches, but if you're not a knitter, it's just where they kind of look like they're shaped like a V. or these two strands that are next to each other. You can count those. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And we know we did 4 of them because we just double checked that. So, or you can look at this post. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And if you find the post, and then just go right up, and it's this kind of this little hole right above the post. And then if you look at, find the hole and then look at the top of the hole, you'll see these two. And then you can put your finger there to mark it when you're going. Okay, so 1, 2, 3. All right. Is that clear? Or do you want me to do it again? Is that okay? And then so just count your double crochets. So 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, if you're counting the posts. 4, 5, 6. So skip 6, which seems like a lot, but that's what it says. And then find this post and then kind of look on top, and you can find those 2 strands of yarn which look like a V, and that's where you're going to go in. So I'm going to yarn over and go in there. I'm going to double check my chart, my pattern. So it says skip 6 double crochets and then 4 double crochets in the next double crochet. Okay. So now that we've determined that one, we're going to do 4 double crochets there. Did everyone see how I found that one, or do you want me to do it again? So 4 double crochets there. Okay. And you can see already it's starting to like really make kind of a, it's really manipulating your fabric to kind of, it's not like just like straight lines. You can, you know, when you just do rows of crochet, it's, we're doing it in a different way. So it's creating almost like movement in your fabric. So that's what's creating the lace. So it's really kind of fun to watch how it forms and shapes. So we're going to do 4, we did 4 double crochets in the next double crochet, and then we repeat from the asterisk to the end of the row. Okay, so let me make sure there's nothing under that. So we're going to go back to this asterisk. Oh, wait a minute, did I skip over something? Yeah, I did. Okay, so we did 3 double crochets in the first double crochet. We skipped 6 double crochets. I did my 4 double crochets in the next double crochet. Now we're starting with our asterisks. So this is where we're going to be repeating from here. We're going to chain 3, single crochet in the next single crochet, chain 3, 4 double crochet in the next double crochet, skip 6 double crochet, and then 4 double crochet in the next double crochet. Repeat from the asterisk to the end of the row, right? So it does sound like a lot, and to me that sounds very confusing, so we're just going to take it one step at a time. We're going to chain 3. So chain 3, so 1, 2, 3. And this is something I really like to see. So it says single crochet in the next single crochet. So we're supposed to do, I mean, right there's our single crochet. So that's kind of like a placeholder almost. If we're supposed to single crochet in the next single crochet and it's right there for us, that means we're in the right place. So that means, you know, it's kind of like, oh, good, I'm doing it right. Because things are lining up for us. And then you know you're right. If it said single crochet in the next single crochet and you were over here, then you would know, oh no, I've done something horribly wrong. So single crochet in the next single crochet, and then chain 3. So 1, 2, 3. chain 3, and then 4 double crochet in the next double crochet. So there is our next double crochet. There's our cluster, and there's the first one. So 4 double crochet there. So you can find it by finding that V and looking for the post. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 double crochet. And then you're going to skip 6 double crochet, and then 4 double crochet in the next double crochet, and you're going to repeat to the end of the row. Okay, so 1, 2, 3. To skip, what did it say? Skip 6 double crochet. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then so right here, double count that again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Did I get my count wrong? Because it says skip 6 and I'm only having 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh no, right there it is. So there's my next one, and I'm at the end of my row because I'm not doing the whole, I'm only doing one repeat. I'm not doing all 87. Oops. Okay, so any questions about that row? And you can see how kind of starts to create this lace pattern. So any questions about anything that we have covered so far? How we doing?
I think we're doing good.
Okay. So row 3, it says to chain 6, which counts as a double crochet. Chain 3 on this row and all the following rows. We're going to turn and we're going to single crochet between the next 2 groups of 4 double crochets. Okay, so chain 6, sorry. Chain 6 and then turn. Okay. Oops, I ran out of yarn. Let me attach some more yarn here. I'm going to do something that I don't recommend you doing. This is just a practice swatch, so I'm just going to tie a knot. But if you're really making a project, I would not recommend doing this. So this is bad behavior. So if you're making a project, you'd have to weave in your ends. But just for the sake of saving some time, I'm just going to do it like that. But I will show you how to weave in your ends at the end if you need me to. Okay, so chain 6, and that counts as a double crochet, and a chain 3 on this and all other rows. Turn, and we're going to do a single crochet between the next 2 groups of 4 double crochets.
I'm
So
just
that's
giving
right
you a
here.
time check there, and we've got less than 15 minutes left already. This time has just flown.
Okay, it has flown. It really has. So here are my two groups of 4. How did that word that? So turn single crochet between the next two groups of 4 double crochets. So just a single crochet right here. The good news is with this pattern is that there's nothing is more complicated than what we've already done. So if you just practice these few basic stitches, then you'll be able to work through it actually without much problem. So the hardest part is keeping track of where you are in the pattern. As you can see, that's what my struggle is. So we're going to chain 3, skip 3 double crochets, and then do 4 double crochets in the next double crochet. So do a chain 3. So 1, 2, 3. And then, so this is why you would never tie a knot and do what I did, because that is going to look awful in your work. So, but because I'm just doing a practice swatch and I'm kind of short on time, I did that. But I really, don't ever do that in a real project. So do a chain 3, and then skip 3 double crochets, and then 4 double crochets in the next double crochet. So 1, you can either count the post or the V. So 1, 2, 3. So there's the last one in that cluster. So we're going to do 4 double crochets in the next double crochet. And you can see, I mean, this is a little bit, each row has its own set of instructions, but they're all telling you to do the same thing. You're skipping a certain number of stitches, you're doing 4 double crochets in a double crochet, and then you're chaining. So it's all the same techniques that are just done kind of in a different order for each row. So that's the good news. It's not like here in a few minutes, I'm going to hit you with some kind of a crazy surprise that's going to be really complicated. It's pretty much everything that we've been doing is what we're going to continue doing. So chain 3, skip 3 double crochets, 4 double crochet in the next double crochet. Then we're going to skip the chain 3, single crochet and chain 3, and then 4 double crochet in the next double crochet. And that sounds like a lot, doesn't it? So let's just look at it one at a time. Okay, so so we're going to skip this where it said to skip the chain 3, single crochet and chain 3, but do 4 double crochet in the next double crochet. So we're just going to skip right over that and right to this one. Do 4 double crochet. So same thing we've been doing, nothing new. So 4 double crochet. You can see how it kind of creates that cluster, which is a nice decorative look. And then we're going to chain 3, and we're going to single crochet between the next two groups of 4 double crochets. So chain 3. And then single crochet. So here are the two groups of 4 double crochets. So single crochet. I always want to do that when I'm going to single crochet, because that's the only stitch where you don't do that. So just always make sure that you're not yarning over first. It's always a little mistake that I just want to make, but you don't want to do it. Okay, so let me go back and do my single crochet. So you bring up a loop, yarn over, and then pull it through both. So like half double, double, and triple, you always start with yarning over either once or twice, but single you don't. So that's the only one that's kind of left out of that. So, but sometimes I think I'm going to do it, but you don't want to fall into that mistake. Okay. Let's look in here. And then you repeat from the asterisk to the end of the row. And then what you're going to do is you're going to chain 3 and then double crochet in the top of the beginning chain. So chain 3, which kind of gets us past that, and then double crochet in the top of the beginning chain. And so that is our beginning chain. And so we're going to go right in there, and you can kind of open it up with your finger, or you can dive in there with your hook. So we're going to do a double crochet right in there. Okay. And as you can see how that is creating the holes that we skipped. So doing our chain 3s and skipping, and also doing these clusters are what creates the lace. So it's actually really kind of fun. It's really fun to do. And once you get into the pattern, it's actually quite repetitive. Okay. And since we are running out of time, I might not have time to go through the rest of it. We have 6 minutes, but I want to kind of read through it quickly. So on row 4, you're going to chain 6 and turn, single crochet in the first single crochet. And then chain 3, do 4 double crochet in the next double crochet, skip 6. So you can see, and I mean, as we go through it, it's all the same thing that we've been doing. Row 5, you're going to chain 3 and turn, 3 double crochet in the first double crochet, skip your chain 3. This is kind of confusing here, so make sure you understand that. When it says skip, and then it has these parentheses with the instructions in them, you're skipping all of that. So I almost feel like there should be something to tie that skip with that, maybe like double parentheses around it, but there isn't. So just know you're going to skip the chain 3, single crochet, and chain 3. So it's kind of skipping that whole group. And then 4 double crochet and the next double crochet. So it sounds exactly like what we've been doing. So, and then I want you to see this, and that's it, because after you finish row 5, what you're going to be doing is you're going to repeat rows 2 through 5 until the piece measures 62 inches or however long or short you want it to be. So you can keep going or you can stop at any point. But all you're doing are repeating rows 2 through 5, and you're only using the same skills that we've been doing this whole time. Where we're doing double crochets, but only in clusters. You're doing your single crochet, you're skipping certain numbers of stitches, and pretty much that's it. So, I mean, if you have any questions, I will be happy to go over. We have about 4 minutes left. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to go over and demonstrate any techniques that you have. Or if you run into any problems while you're making it, you feel free to contact me either on Instagram or TikTok. Maybe Claire will put my username in the chat. It's Mr. M-I-S-T-E-R Woolly Bear. Also, you can find me on Facebook. You can send me a direct message, which is just my name. So. Okay.
All right, Darren, we've got 3 questions. Let's see if you can answer these quickly.
I'll try my best.
I'll start with probably the easiest to show on your swatch there. We have questions on how to add a new yarn correctly and then how to finish the piece once they're all done.
Okay, so adding a new yarn correctly, I recommend trying to add a new yarn either at the beginning of the row. Like try not to do it in the middle of the row. It's just going to make things a little bit neater. But if you have to, you can certainly do this in the middle of the row as well. So I cut my yarn. So I'm going to do a chain 3. Well, that's cutting us a little short. So I've cut my yarn here. And let's just say my instruction was, sometimes it's chain 3 or chain 6 with this project. Let's just say it was a chain 3. And I'm going to add a different color yarn so you can see it a little better. So I'm going to just pick up my new yarn, leaving a tail for finishing. And I'm going to do my chain 3. So 1, 2. And I did 1 chain with my old one. So, and you wouldn't want to do this with a different color. I'm just showing you just so you can kind of see what I'm doing. And then turn your work and do whatever it wants you to do. So let's just say it wants us to do a single, it wants us to do a double crochet. Oops, you don't want to get that caught. Let's just say it wants us to do a double crochet, couple of double crochets, whatever. And then, so then what you'll do then is you'll just go back and weave these in and then cut them off. So do we know how to weave in our ends, or do you want to see that?
I'm going to say we can skip that because we still have to show how to finish it. And then we had a request to see how to do the slip knot again.
The slip knot again? Okay. So when you say how to finish it, what are we talking about? Like blocking it? Do we want to talk about blocking, or what are we?
Nope, say you've just finished the last row. And what do you do then when it says fasten off?
Oh, fasten off. Okay, so let's just look at the slip knot real quick. So for the slip knot, and again, there are many, many ways of tying a slip knot. If you don't do it this way, maybe you do a different way, and it might be just as good. And I call this way's called short over long. So here's my tail. You make a loop and you put your short tail over your working yarn. So the working yarn, which is connected to your ball of yarn, that's the long tail, and this is the short tail. So short over long. Put your hand inside that loop, hold the tail, grab that tail, pull up a loop like that, and then holding your working yarn and your tail together, you kind of fasten it, make it a little tight. And it's nice in crochet if the tail is what controls the size of that loop. And that becomes very important in other projects. So it's nice to just kind of do it that way out of habit. Okay. So just make a loop like this, putting the tail over top of the working yarn. So short over long, reach into that loop, grab your tail, pull it back through the loop, and then hold the tail and the working yarn together and cinch it up. Okay. And again, many ways to do this. So if you don't like this way, you can probably find another way, but it's just a real easy way to do it. Now let's look at, it says here. Oh, fasten off. Okay. So all that means to do is, let me see if I got a swatch. So here's a little bit of the lace that I was working on. So let's just say we're going to do a double crochet here. I'm not really doing what it says, but I'm just going to get to the end of the row. So fasten off would be you cut your yarn and then you've got your end and then you just pull it through like that. And that's what kind of cinches it, right, Claire? That's just fasten off. Does that demonstrate that? It's probably easier than you think. I mean, you probably missed it because it's just cut your yarn and then pull your loose yarn back through that final stitch. Okay. And then this is kind of what, and then what you can do if you soak this in water and then pin it out and let it dry, it'll really open up your lace nicely and it'll look very pretty. And that's kind of blocking. Okay. Anything else? Did that answer that question clearly?
I think so, yes. All right, I'm going to put the link and the PDF for the pattern here in the chat once more in case anybody needs that. A reminder that this class was recorded and you'll be able to watch it again in about 24 hours on the Michaels YouTube channel and the michaels.com/classes page as well. We are not going to be here next week for the holiday, but hopefully you can join us in June. I think we start off June with 2 other crochet classes, doing some amigurumi and the granny square. Unfortunately, we don't have the sample shawl for this, just the finished shawl, but you can get an idea of the lace on Darren's swatch that's there on screen.
All right. Anything else? I want to say again, thank you to the student. I hope the student's still here that caught my mistake and saved the day. That was very nice. So I always love helpful students. That was really helpful and thoughtful. So if you have any questions, just contact me on social media. I try to respond to the direct messages pretty quick. So, all right. Thanks for coming to class. Have a great night.